from someone you might not like. This is the burning issue on the happy world of 5FM Radio, bringing you hot, smoldering topics on a weekly basis. Your participation is important.
Good morning and welcome to yet another edition of the burning issue here on the happy world of 5FM Radio on the 89.9 in Lusaka and the surrounding areas. Remember, we are also live on our partner radio stations, iWave FM Radio in Chingola, live on 90.1 FM, and we are also live on Tuta FM, that is on 90.7 in Mansa, and live on Mchinga Radio on 88.1. Rather 88.8. So we are live on Mchinga Radio in Chinsali, covering the rest of Mchinga province. Don't forget Central Province as well, on Spice FM 91.1. And here in Lusaka, I earlier mentioned, live on 5FM Radio on 89.9. And the entire Southern Province is tuned in as well. We are live on Wave FM Radio on 98.7 in Mazabuka, covering the rest of Southern Province. We are grateful that you could find time to tune in. We are also live on our Facebook page. Please follow that conversation with us. That is 5FM Radio Zambia. Also, don't forget YouTube channel, which is 5FM, also live on that platform. Feel free also to send us your comments and prior questions if you like. Now, let me first and foremost sincerely apologize for starting the program late. This is due to circumstances beyond our guests' control. Initially, we advertised that our guest was going to be Mansa Central Member of Parliament and former Minister of Health, Dr. Chilufya Chitalu. And of course, unfortunately, he is unable to make it in good time. He was actually traveling all the way from the Copper Belt, and he's still en route to Lusaka. And we figured he may not make it in good time for the program this morning here on 5FM Radio. Nonetheless, he is well replaced, and of course, we have a very able guest to indeed discuss most of the issues that we should have discussed with him, with Dr. Chilufya. And my guest this morning is Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. He is also information and publicity chairperson for the Patriotic Front and spokesperson as well. Welcome to the program. Good to have you. Compliments of the season.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you. Glad to be back on 5FM, and thank you for the apologies for Dr. Chitalu Chilufya, who should have been here. However, we are glad that we can pursue the matter and discuss with our people the concerns affecting our people.
Yeah. Well, in my mention or my wishes and compliments of the season, I'm not sure if it is really a good festive season for you as a party, Patriotic Front. But what a year that it's been. Very difficult year for you as a party, no?
First of all, it's very difficult for our people. There's no sense of a festive season in the air. The Christmas season is quiet and silent. You're not seeing excitement by workers. You're not seeing excitement by our people. You're not seeing... it's like the COVID times where, people were locked up in their homes. The current festive season is really, really affected. And it demonstrates the state of our economy, that our economy is very bad. It demonstrates that our economy is not doing very well. That it demonstrates that the high cost of living has really beaten our people so badly that there's no money to spare. People literally just have to survive. And I think it is showing in the year. For the Patriotic Front, we keep on soldiering on. We are now going in the third year of sustained attacks from the UPND and from State House. We have been standing firm so far. Our members are intact. Our leadership is intact. But the attacks have taken a new twist. from October, when someone purported to hold a retreat that he converted to an extraordinary conference, and elected himself and said he was president of the Patriotic Front. And since he was a State House project, he was quickly recognized as such by the Registrar of Societies, despite protestation from the Registrar of Societies stating that the PF has a constitution and it has a way in which it holds conference. And what the sham that was held, which was highly guarded by over 200 police officers, was not an extraordinary conference, but the state proceeded to recognize it. They proceeded to make changes based on a letter from a stranger, a gentleman called Morgan Ingona, who left the PF in 2022 and joined another opposition party. And changes of leadership were made in Parliament, where Honorable Brian Munduvile was replaced and Honorable Stephen Kampiong were replaced. So the last quarter of the year hasn't been well for us. We are engaged in legal battles to reclaim and restore our party from the attempts to steal, destroy, and kill our party.
Now, that said, it's the first time we are hosting you after the comeback of ECL into politics and of course announcing his retirement. This has obviously brought about a different debate altogether. And this debate has escalated in the sense that now he's challenging benefits that have been withdrawn from him. I mean, people are saying, didn't he know what he was doing? And they're asking such questions. I'm not sure if you're competent to talk about that, but it's of concern.
Yeah, 4 days after Mal Sampa held that illegal conference, and there were maneuvers to recognize that as a legal process by government, President Edgar Lungu, Zambia's 6th president, made an unprecedented announcement. This was at the memorial of President Michael Sata, I think 9th memorial President Michael Sata. And he said democracy was under attack, not the PF. Democracy was under attack. The rule of law was under attack. And as a former president, he says, I can't keep quiet. The development in the nation threatened national peace and security. For example, members in the PF, which is the largest political party in this country, can react, can rise, can protest. We literally can bring down law and order as if our members are not shepherded properly. And he said he was renouncing his retirement, and he was because remember, on the party's side, he was just on leave, although he had announced his retirement to cabinet office. But on the party side, he was just on leave because that's what the records show. He gave a resignation letter. The party rejected it in December 2021. And they said, our constitution says you'll hand over to the new president. So you go on leave, you will not be engaged in partisan or active politics. You'll be in retirement, but you're a party president, so you record you as one being on leave. When we are ready, when we've elected the new president, you are going to hand over to the new president. The fears by the UPND are very well established against President Lungu. Even before he announced his intended renunciation of retirement, there was speculation for almost 2 years. He's standing in 2026. No, we know he wants to come back.
Of course, because he was holding on to that political party position, which he had not relinquished by way of handover. So the convention was delayed, hence him remaining a party president. And at that point, it's justifiable why the head of state would find it very difficult to even have an interaction with the former head of state, who seems to still be clinging on to his position in opposition.
You know, it reminds me of President Michael Sata and Rupiah Banda. Rupiah Banda was eligible to stand in 2016, but he went into retirement, allowed the conference to take place, which elected Nevas Mumba at that convention. And there was a tussle between Felix Mtati, I think Stumbeko Msokotwane, and Nevas Mumba. Nevas Mumba took the lead. And then there were sustained attacks against the former president, Rupia Banda. And Rupia Banda's immunity was eventually even lifted, and he was arraigned before court. What was the base? The basis was that Rupia Banda will likely stand in 2026, even when he indicated that he had retired from active politics. So there are these fears, unnecessary fears. Sometimes they even drive a person to do what they are alleging that he will do. And we saw, as soon as a vacancy occurred after the death of President Michael Sata, President Rupia Banda threw in his card and he wanted to stand for various reasons. So we are in similar situation with President Edgar Lungu. It doesn't matter what he says. His political opponents assume that he will stand in 2026. Even if he says, I've retired, he says, I have resigned, he says, I'll not stand in 2026, they don't believe him. And they just believe he will stand. So we are in that scenario. You asked a good question. That now, after that retirement, 2-3 months later, we see the former president asking for his benefits. We have seen Laura Miti even saying the former president is a state property. It's dangerous not to accord him his security. Whatever arguments you have about his benefits, but accord him his security. I was privileged to have worked for the former president, President Frederick Chiluba, for a period of 10 years. I'm very familiar with the former President's Benefits Act. I'm very familiar even with its amendments, and I'm very familiar with the listing of matters that the president is entitled to. In this case, for example, Edgar Lungu was not given his cars, he was not given an office, he didn't have office assistants, he literally had nothing other than the small provisions, maybe for his fuel and maybe food for the kitchen. But the entire list is entitled to 3-4 vehicles. As a former president, there's what we call an appearance vehicle, which is a Mercedes-Benz. The president usually drives an S500 or S600. The former president drives an S400. Service chiefs, vice president, they would drive S350. So they are rankings. Then he's supposed to have a 4x4. Then he's supposed to have a utility vehicles for his staff, likely a bus to transport staff to and from work, because hours are usually regular, especially for chefs if they are not living in the compound, and for security staff that knock off late sometimes. So you need a bus. Then there's a utility vehicle that do the errands, because you cannot have a Mercedes-Benz going to Melissa to buy groceries. None of those were given. None of those were done. So, and that was a problem with the issues of President Edgar Lungu. Before we even talk about that, the benefits were taken away. I think he was only enjoying that house whose payments were done, accommodation, and just like I said, maybe fuel is the only thing that was being made available to him. Yeah.
So then, what is he asking for?
So the purpose of that court action is something I support. A former president gets his benefits not because he's in politics or he's not in politics. He is entitled to those benefits because he's a former president. He has worked. That's the purpose of those benefits. You can only access them if you've been president. The amendment that was done in 1998.
So these are benefits in arrears, not that he wants to claim what he should be getting as a former president.
So it's like, I'm a banker. I've worked and retired. But they say, no, Emmanuel has some competence that we need. He has experience that we need. So when I go back, are you going to take away my benefits? In fact, you will pay me afresh. That will be a fresh contract. You will not take away the benefits I've worked for the last 20 years. Former President Edgar Lungu has worked as as president. The benefits are entitled to him because of his position. He worked as president. He's now former president. Ali Shivombela, in short, in ordinary parlance.
So it's in arrears.
Yeah, not necessarily in arrears. It's in perpetuity. You are supposed to pay it until he leaves office or he dies. Until he dies. That's what the law says. So the amendment that was done in 1998 was very malicious. It was targeted at forcing Dr. Kaunda to retire. Because Dr. Kaunda, when the Benefits Act was enacted in 1993,
right,
he was on government payroll, getting 80% of the president's salary. He was entitled to government vehicles. There were argues and quarrels, but essentially he was being given. He tried to stand in 1996 as president. He was still on benefits of a former president. And by 1998, there was a coup. Dr. Kaunda was implicated in the coup, was locked up for a few months under house arrest, I think 8 months. So there were now negotiations, regional. You remember that Mwalimu Julius Nyerere came, that this is an elder statesman in Africa. You cannot have an elder statesman locked up. So there were negotiations with the church, with especially South Africa, and Tanzania played the key role. And it was agreed that Dr. Kaunda retires from active politics. So when that settlement was done and his benefits were reinstated or refunded or whatever, when there was that dispute, then we saw that small amendment that a former president will only be entitled to these benefits if he retires from active politics. So that line was inserted in 1998, but it's not the original thought of that law. That law entitles former presidents to benefits and pensions.
So what did he give up when he decided to come back into politics?
Probably transport. I mean, just his accommodation and the fuels that were given. Like I said, there's no office for the 6th president. There's no attendant.
So he sees no difference.
There's literally no difference. But the purpose of that lawsuit is a principle. It's not about Edgar Lungu.
Yeah.
This will affect Hakainde Hichilema. This will affect Emmanuel Mwamba. Whoever will be president in future, it will affect them because the benefits will be taken away. Remember, they've been threatening. The Minister of Justice was on TV, on radio, every time President Edgar Lungu issued a statement. He'll be threatened with withdrawal of his benefits. I think there are over 5 litigations against the former president over his benefits, that is engaged in active politics, that was breaching the 1993 Benefits Act. So this lawsuit is very, very important. So whether Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu surrendered or didn't renounce, his benefits were still threatened because of his public statements or his tours. If he went to church, they accused him of engaging in partisan politics. If he tried to go to the Copper Belt, they barred him. They accused him of participating in politics. So his benefits were threatened even before he made the renunciation. And that's my point. And that's the point of that legal lawsuit, to settle this matter finally. Because what is active politics? It has to be defined. The last 2 years, Edgar Lungu, before even, no matter how many times he said I'm in retirement, they accused him of engaging in partisan politics. They accused him of engaging in active politics.
So there's a general feeling, even with those who sympathize with the former president, the general feeling is that the PF members, especially the Central Committee members, have had undue influence on the former head of state, and really you still want to use a tired horse.
Yeah, no, it's unfair. The president makes his own personal decisions, and in fact, the last 2.5 years, he's really narrowed the people he sees. He didn't want to put people in trouble. There were times people visited him and they will have police or SEC raid their homes just for visiting his home. When they were found at any place where with the former president or they accompanied the former president, they were arraigned before DEC and others. It was actually risky to be with the former president. So the decisions of the former president are entirely his, and all we can do is support his decisions. He wants to retire, we support his decisions. He wants to come back in politics, we support his decisions. He makes those decisions in accordance with his rights and freedoms as guaranteed by the Republican Constitution.
Let's then continue with, let's look at the year that has been economically and many other things. First of all, there was a scheduled press briefing by the head of state. I'm sure, in my wisdom, I'm thinking he probably wants to, address the nation on the year that has been and successes that, his regime has scored in the past 1 year, or probably coupled 2 years. But what are your expectations of this? I know it's been rescheduled to a later
Friday.
Yeah, so,
yes.
But what are your thoughts? What are the thoughts of the head of state in anticipation?
Well, he's a head of state who has one of the biggest crises this country has ever faced. You have the highest cost of living in living memory. You have a volatile exchange rate. The devaluation it has suffered just even in the last 6 months makes our currency the worst currency. Now we've even beaten Argentina, because the two of us were competing for the worst performing currency. You have sectors in crisis. Look at the farming, agriculture sector. Third year in a row, total crisis. The maize that we stored under Food Reserve Agency were all exported, poor decisions. The farming input distribution under FISIP remains a huge crisis. The numbers have been narrowed down. People that are eligible are fewer. They keep on telling you that we have not changed the numbers. They are the same ones that we found under the PF, 1.1 million. But you will not see people sharing medals. This is a new phenomena of sharing farming inputs. It's only a new phenomena under the UPND. We have an economic crisis. You have a country without an economic recovery plan. They are relying on the 8th National Development Plan, a plan that we crafted, a plan that they found not at first draft or second draft, at final draft. It just needed a signature. So I guess they just changed where Edgar Lungu was in the forward, they just put Hakainde Hichilema, and where Dr. Walyangandu was, they just put Musokotwane. So there's no economic blueprint to get out of the economic mess. The PF in 2020 December recognized, after going through various phases, number one, they did a debt distress test to establish our debt, to disclose our debt. This was done in conjunction with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. We established how much our debt was. We were transparent about it. The test revealed that we could be debt distressed and there was need to restructure our debt, especially that we had bullet payments due in 2022 and 2024 and 2025, for the 3 billion euro bond. And we're paying high interest rate for project loans that came from China, because remember, these are commercial loans from banks. They are not sovereign loans from the Republic of China. They were project finances from Exim Bank and Development Bank of China. So when the debt distress was done, we recognized we needed to restructure our debt. And our plan was very simple. Engage China to see how that debt can be restructured, and if possible, even seek debt cancellation, because this was development aid. We're not funding people. We're not funding. We were funding infrastructure, and these are long term, because the benefits come many years later. But we're paying for them now. So there was intention to restructure with China, and we hired Lazard Ferres of France. You remember, to now restructure our debt with you,
which was a failed project.
How?
So much
Lazard
money,
is still on the books. Lazard keeps on doing the book.
So much money was spent on them, and people are questioning the results.
But Lazard is the one that has done all the work for even this new government. If they had failed, they would have been fired. Up to now, even the ones that made the announcement for this failed debt restructure of the 3 billion is Lazard Ferres at the London Stock Exchange. They did a fantastic job. We paid them 5 million deposit, and they began the work. They engaged, remember, bondholders, even at the point when we were defaulting, Lazard was in the forefront of explaining so that there was no crash to our bond. And when this government came, they took over Lazard. But these are things they'll never tell you. The work that Musokotwane does, he sits next to Lazard Ferres, but politically they want to scandalize Lazard Ferres and say, these were hired by. No, they would call them lizards those days, I remember. But the lizards are sitting with them. They're the ones doing the current debt restructure. They are the backbone.
So they are still on the contract that you signed with them as
exactly. They still are. And they're the ones that have been helping the official creditors committee, the one that's chaired by France and China. They are the technical backbone. On the Eurobond, again, it's Lazard Ferres that is doing the work. Even the scandalous agreement that was done by Musokotwane and his team is, Lazard made the announcement for its cancellation in London. So it's a bad year for the president. But as usual, he will come and give an upbeat statement that first we are breaking down the mountain of debt left by the PF. They will not tell you that they've borrowed more and that the rate they are borrowing is far faster than the PF ever borrowed in 10 years, because they are now standing at $6 billion. But they will not tell you that. They'll tell you that CDF has been a success. It's a pillar in communities. They'll tell you about the desks that are being bought locally. They'll tell you about the price of meal for farmers that we've increased from 180
for the mines.
Oh, that's a scandal. But they'll tell you that they've resolved the crisis. All these things I'm saying.
Are you sure there is nothing good that you can point at and say kudos to the UPND government for having scored this year? I mean, let me maybe remind you that so far to where we are with access to information bill, it's a success, no?
Are you sure?
It dragged in your regime. Like it's
Zach,
we never thought
Zach,
it would see the light of.
I wrote a piece about freedom of information. I was not even aware that the matter was coming up that morning in the National Assembly for first reading.
Yeah,
I was not aware, but someone sent me, Ambassador. You used to be one of you veteran journalists actually. You used to be very active on this.
Access to information.
Media lobby and media reforms.
Yes,
I used to be very, very active with MISA and others. And so they said, why are you quiet about this bill? I said, I haven't seen the bill. They said it's on the National Assembly. I went to the National Assembly. I downloaded it. Oh my God, it's a terrible law. Because the denigrations, the discretion given to information holders, the exclusions to institutions renders it literally useless. That piece of legislation will not help us. It will help President Hakainde and his government. They will tick the box. Death penalty, they will say freedom of information, they will tick the box, but the law will not access you the information, because the discretion for you to have it as a matter of right has been taken away from you. Like I said, the denigration are too many. And we will need just the same criticism. When I saw the Public Order Act amendments, they are crafting a new law. They are going to call it Public Gatherings Act. Again, it's just the same reloaded Public Assembly Act. It will be the same law, very bad law, nothing else. It will change in nomenclature, that public gatherings, right? Again, these denigrations we are talking about, the wide discretion given to the police. And in the Freedom of Information Bill, where the terrible things are, first of all, they want to take it to Human Rights Commission to run it. I think Human Rights Commission has no capacity. They don't have a countrywide presence. They are struggling with their core mandate. So how do they run the Freedom of Information Act? I know there will be supervision from Ministry of Information, and I wondered, where are the senior journalists? How did they allow this to pass? Why are they quiet? The other day, I saw a glorifying statement from MISA congratulating the minister and government for passing that legislation. I said, yangu tata, the journalism yadi chinja. Maybe the advocates who were engaged in is totally different. An Access to Information Act, the Freedom of Information Act, should access you the information you want.
So this is not what you lot. This is not what you left. This is not
Zimbabwe has an access to information bill and is accused to be a dictatorship. And that access information bill is useless. You need an access to information act, like the one in the US, like the one in the Netherlands,
is
like
that
the
what
one
you,
in Britain.
is that what you were prepared to give this country?
Or for the PF?
Or yeah,
I think the PF.
it's one and the same.
For the
that
PF,
should
you
have
can
equally
ask.
given
I'm
us.
glad that Honorable Dr. Doris Lee, and congratulations, she's now a doctor, was Minister of Information. She should give you their draft. It was that extensive. It was democratic. It was going to give both people and you journalists information. This act bars you. It has too many doors, too many gatekeepers why you can't get the information. And which citizen then, if you fail to get that information, they say you go to court. First, court take forever. Even for an emergency matter like the PF, which is threatening national security, the judiciary will take their sweet time, even if the country is burning. How will they give you information at a speed you want it as a journalist? You deal with deadlines and periods, and your currency of information is how important it is now when the matter is topical. So by the time you're going to court and getting the information 2 years later, how would that be beneficial? How would that make government transparent? It's the same issue with CDF. Okay, you take money from the police, from Ministry of Health, from other departments, and you lump them in CDF. And people that have never worked in government would think CDF is good. They'll say, you remember PF mwaishire pa 1.6 million. But if we now equal pa 25.6, now 28.6, and they say it's good. I was permanent secretary in the provinces. I'll ask you, where are the district budgets? Where are the provincial budgets? I'll ask you that questions. Where are the departmental charges? Where are the departmental budgets at district level? As the national budget changed, Zach, where have they gotten the money to increase CDF? It's very simple. Your money for district, for roads, which the district would do, for health, for community development, that they would do as a district, now has been taken to CDF. For bursaries, we have bursaries at district level to support children that are vulnerable, that are orphaned. At this under community development, which is under the ministry, and there's a long queue there, you apply, you are given. So they take that budget and put it under CDF. Money for a police car, they put it under CDF, and they package it to you that it is, they brand it like it's a success. And when we criticize, we are saying decentralization is a policy, is a large policy. And CDF is a tiny component in the decentralization policy. And what we should exert our pressure and resources is not on CDF, but on the policy of decentralization. What should happen at a district? Who should provide education, health, development, communities, and social welfare? Who should at district level? You should devolve the powers from the ministries here in Lusaka, who keep on holding on to money, to resources, and to the power structures such as procurement, and take it at district level. That's what you need to, so that you must have noticed what we call absorption capacity. This is where we give you money, but you fail to spend. We are ending 2023. They have not spent the CDF money for 2022. Remember, we carried it over. And this year, they've only released 5.9 billion, and I think they're supposed to release another small amount towards it. So there's what is called absorption capacity. Absorption capacity says, do you have capacity at constituency level? When the money comes, can you advertise? Can you have procurement then to pick? Can you, when the money comes and you process all these processes, can you then pay? Do you have capacity? Do you have engineers to supervise the project? So the absorption capacity is absent. That is why last year's CDF has not been spent. A little bit was spent. This year, again, the bulk of it has not been spent. What they've spent is just two streams. The first stream, to give those grants, and as you saw the Auditor General, he has flagged off. He says all the youths that were given, especially the loans, have disappeared. There are no records for them. Literally, it's a looting frenzy for the cooperatives created by UPND. Then another stream that is moving, if you want to buy a yellow machine, because there's a Chinese selling, Camco, there's Indian selling Saro. It's easy, you get a quotation and Gary Nkombo's minister and PS they authorize, and you walk with that yellow machine to your constituents and you put it on your Facebook that it is success. It's not success. Why is the yellow machine parked when you don't have roads? Because there's no fuel allocation. Just to do a road, look at the number of liters you need, the hundreds of liters you need for diesel, for that machine to work. Where is the allocation for your machine, your yellow machine? You get it and you park it at Civic Center. My dear brother, Kankoyo MP, bought tractors. I haven't seen these tractors in action. In fact, the first time the tractors went in action was at his farm. And the auditors raised the flag, my MP. Mwatwala mama tractor to your mother's farm and your farm. Even if you are paying, this is going to be an issue. So there are many issues, including probably even for Honorable Kaveta Hudson Kaveta, young, brilliant MP. I like his thought process, is very independent. But you can see how that equipment, as expensive as it is, it's not being hired. There's no mechanism even for hire. It's not in the field, it's at Civic Center. So when we say the CDF is not a success, that's what we mean, is that implement a decentralization policy. CDF is a small component, and understand what decentralization policy is. It's going to be easy, but they'll brand it as success. Another success they'll say is free education. We've provided desks, and children that were at home are in school. Now, who provided free education? Now I would argue it is a PF. The amount was at 600 kwacha. That was a user fee parents used to pay. We reduced it to 150. We knocked off 450 kwacha. The UPND knocked off 150 kwacha because that's what we left and called it free education. Who has provided free education? The one that knocked out 450 kwacha, or the one that knocked out 150? And for us, our support to clinics, to schools for their running of affairs was brilliant. The purpose at 150 was left was for them to run administratively, to have a grant. They can hire guards, pay electricity, deal with breakages, windows, detergents for the toilets, and run small things for laboratories. That was the purpose we left at 150. But we said our people need to have free access to education. So now you remove this 150 and your grants are 3,000 to a school per term. How do you pay for a guard in 300 kwacha? How do you pay for electricity in 300 kwacha? How do you meet school expenses and in administering the school? The purpose the PF left this 150, it was for that purpose, for schools to have some quick money, because the grant comes late and it's very little. There are big schools like Matero Boys, Kablonga, Libala. They'll receive out of this 150 because of the number of students. They'll have a budget of up to 1.2 million kwacha. But now you give them, they were running a budget of 1.2 million kwacha. You give them a grant of 200,000. It might look like it's a lot, but it's little. Then schools that would raise good money, maybe 50,000, 60,000 or 100,000 kwacha to run the school affairs from this 150. Now they have none. They have to receive a 3,000 kwacha from Ministry of Education. So is that free education? Are you providing quality education? Yes, we want everyone, every parent wants their child in school. But what kind of education are our children receiving? I would commend them on provision of desks. Commendable. I personally have thought that we shouldn't be importing desks from China. We have a lot of woods, we have a lot of steel in this country, and we should ramp up support for especially our small entrepreneurs, our, our metal fabricators across the country should be doing that. But even there's procurement crisis. Because people are coming to make desks. You pass through Karingaringa, Tabombeki, you will see the number of desks being made here. The idea is that these desks and skills should be in the provinces and in the districts. So our criticism is that this government has failed to deal with the big issues. Health sector, which Dr. Chitalu Chilufya should have discussed adequately. You have cholera, and it was suppressed. The deaths are how many now? I'm told they are 72. They announced in the last 1 month, we've lost 35 or 36. But the total deaths since the outbreak came was 72. That's a huge number. PF would lose 9 lives. Soldiers would be on the streets. Vending will be stopped. Streets will be cleaned. Drainages will be opened. There'll be a huge public awareness. You have 72 people that have died and it's quiet and silent. You have anthrax. People are dying from anthrax. And unheard of diseases. We used to know that this was a disease for animals. But it didn't become a zoological disease where it migrates to people. You have anthrax in Lusaka. It was unheard of. You have anthrax in Impika, unheard of. You have anthrax in Chipata. So you have a government sitting on beds and beds of crisis.
This is the first edition of The Burning Issue here on the Happy World of 5 FM radio. My guest is Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who is the Chairperson for Information and Publicity and Spokesperson of the Patriotic Front. And we've so far discussed quite a number of issues. Now that you bring out the health sector, which I know initially we should have had Dr. Chitalu Chilufya on this program today, but due to circumstances beyond his control, he couldn't make it. But one of the things that we should have spoken about is a dossier that came out talking about how NEMA is going down, as in it's a dying project now. It's been neglected, but all this has been alleged on personal interest in the leadership of the ruling party. I mean, I don't believe this, but do you?
Yes, we do. For various reasons. The contributions. Because remember, the number of workers in our country at formal sector is very, very small. Just above 1 million, 1.1 million. This number hasn't changed from the 60s and 70s, when the population was 3 million, 5 million, 6 million. We had about 1.1 million workers, formal workers. Now, the crisis we have is that the population is 20 million and our people remain in formal employment only 1.1 million. So you can only get support from 1.1 million to support this infrastructure. Number two, then when you contribute just 2% of your salary, 2%, you are expected to bring your entire family up to 7 on board on that 2%. So the base for NEMA is very narrow to support this pyramid. It's an upside pyramid. It's supposed to be it's now an inverted pyramid. It's supposed to be, at the top, smaller people, more people contributing at the base. But you have fewer people contributing, supporting the inverted pyramid. 2%, how does it support 7 people? It's not sustainable. Then there is a looting exercise going on by the private sector. That's what is happening, where there's overprescription, there's overprescription, and there's the project is just not sustainable in the manner it is being. The resources are being depleted that they will not be able to support our patients. Then there's a long queue. From the time you submit, you want to do a test, whether it's X-ray, whether it is Yeah, sorry, we have to deal with that feedback.
Right.
Yeah. So whether it's X-ray, whether it's MRI, whether it is whatever it is that you want to do, the waiting period is too long for the patient. And then there are certain medicines that are not accessible under NEMA. And the approval process is taking forever. And there are administrative issues. There are founders, experienced people that founded that NEMA, that went and got educated, got masters how to do, a comprehensive national health policy like that. It's supposed to support universal coverage. All the 3 qualified ones have been fired just because they were employed previously by Dr. Chitalo Chilufia's ministry. No one has looked at their competence. No one has looked at their qualifications. And then you bring a tribal clique who are promoting tribalism, who they've sacrificed competence for tribalism. That's a crisis we have at NEMA. One of the distinguished doctors who was fired from there, who are a lot of people know because they come from a very well-known family, Dr. Kamanga, is now the chief consultant for setting up a similar NEMA in Liberia. So our skills are appreciated across the world, but not in our country. I would rather bring my tribesmate. And even the people you fire, those that are from a certain region, you don't fire them because they come from your region, because what's the criteria you are using to fire everyone else? And then you leave those that belong to your region, you the new ones. So NEMA is in crisis. There's a frenzy from private hospitals who are over-prescribing, who are over admitting our patients so that the bill could go, and it's easier to then make the claims. So NEMA is under crisis, and it's not serving the purpose for which it was created.
What do you think is the solution to save this NEMA? If it is,
it shouldn't be an inverted pyramid. The base should be bigger. There should be more contributions. NEMA first should
double the contributions, for example.
For me, no.
2% to 4%, maybe.
No, encourage, especially people in the informal sector. We need to do a huge recruitment. The crisis we have is like with ZRA, where few people contribute and run this country. That's why the salaries are high. I mean, the taxes are high for our workers. Because ZRA only has one cash cow.
How can it be done then to widen the revenue base, especially if you push it towards informal sector?
First, allow the professionals to run the entity. Don't hire them on the basis of tribe because they're related to the minister or they are related to who. You don't do that. And the guy who comes also begins to do a page of his own. This is how we are destroying institutions, where we are forgoing meritocracy for mediocrity, replacing the meritocracy for mediocrity. Number 2, there's need for an aggressive campaigns. All the institutions under the Minister of Health are not doing very well. All the regulatory organs are not doing well.
My question on NEMA, Ambassador, is how can we capture the informal sector?
Zambians have more workers than the 1.1 million. So the bulk of the workers are in the informal sector. Yeah. So you need to capture every worker. You make it mandatory, and there are many innovations. Let me give you an example of what His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli did in Tanzania. He went to the mobile companies and got these brilliant young boys to get through mobile companies, because that's the largest base you have. Like in Zambia, phones that are registered and have a number are more than even our population. We have reached saturation. You use that base to make people pay. Then you eliminate if there is double payment or duplication of payment. From there, you do a reconciliation from there. And that's what Magufuli did, created a PIN number for your taxes and other fees, user fees like hospital fees or school fees, using the information available before mobile networks. We have to use similar schemes. We have to be extremely innovative to capture that huge. Even a person at the market has an income, has a phone, likely has a phone. And if there's huge awareness where people know that I can go to the hospital under NEMA and I don't have to worry. If there's no medicine, I'll buy under NEMA. If there's no X-ray, I'll go to a place where there's an X-ray. If our people know that the benefits to NEMA are so high that they will receive quality health care, they will contribute. Besides, what's 1%, 2% of your income? If it's 100 kwacha, literally you are paying something like 1 ungwe to it. So how much is that? Contributions can be done. Contribution can be, you need a huge awareness that the pyramid is not inverted, it comes proper, where there are a huge number. That's how insurance works. Insurance works, including medical insurance, that there are more people contributing than the ones that are sick. Because the healthy ones then subsidize those that are sick. That's how systems work. So you cannot have NEMA, which is one person carries a bearing of 7 persons, and your contribution is 2%. So how can that be sustainable? Yeah.
Now, one thing before I bring in phone calls is I will take you back to, in anticipation, the president will be addressing the nation, will be having a press briefing. He's probably likely to touch on the successes that his government and the IMF have probably scored. Do you feel it's something very important? This is a success that they have created a very good relationship with the IMF?
No, we just demand for information. We demand for transparency. And that is taken for, it's malicious criticism. They accuse us that we should be quiet because the problem was created by the PF. They don't want to engage in the issues that we raise. We've been screaming on top of our lungs, on top of rooftops, that the recent debt restructure is a scandal and the president must take action. They went into negotiations over Eurobond, which is held by private banks, some of them BlackRock. And the negotiations were literally scandalous, I think driven by corruption. There are 3 things that occurred in that negotiation. One, they raised the coupon value of the Eurobond, which is at 3 billion. They added 135 million to it. Number one. I've never seen debt negotiation where I owe you so much, it's supposed to go down. There is an $800 million we've accumulated from December 2020 to date. Under the G20 framework, under where these negotiations are being done, that $800 million must be cancelled. It should not be taken on board. Remember, we defaulted, so-called default. Under the G20 framework, we were allowed to default, to stop servicing our debt for this period. It's pre-agreed. So you are not supposed to pay for any interest that have accumulated so far. That's why you have not seen any bondholder go to court and seize our assets abroad or come and bring a fight against our assets in Zambia, because the framework was under G20, universal. It's universal. So they agreed to bring and pay that $800 million. For whose interest? Then the purpose of debt restructure is to restructure the debt. If there is a bullet payment due in 2022, 2024, 2025, you push them further, maybe to 2035 or 2052. That's the purpose of the negotiations. This government said, no, we are going to pay $2.5 billion next year. We'll put it in our budget for 2024, 2025, and we'll pay the Eurobond $2.5 billion. And the difference is what we'll pay in 2035 to 2032. Where will you get $2.5 billion? It has taken you almost 3 years to try to get $1.3 billion from the IMF. And they've only disbursed $561 million so far in 2 years. Where will you get $2.5 billion? And for whose interest? Why do you want to pay such a huge amount? The purpose of debt restructure is exactly that. So that you are not debt distressed, your books are cleaner, so that you can then meet social services. This government agreed to pay $2.5 billion next year. That is why Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwane was directed immediately to cancel it. Because remember, when he announced it on 26th October, there was huge headlines across the world, including here on 5FM. Government has reached a breakthrough with Eurobond. Dr. Msokotwane has announced that now the debt restructure is now complete because a major debt has now been restructured. The $6.3 billion with China and others, and this $3 billion, the ones remaining are very small minority debts, and it was called a milestone. 11 days later, we went with our tails between our legs to the London Stock Exchange to announce that the agreement that we had said is not an agreement. And we caused huge losses at the London Stock Exchange. Because what happened is when we announced on 26 October, our Eurobond went to the roof because the terms were so favorable, everyone wanted to buy into our Eurobond. It reached the highest mark it has ever reached. A few days later, we are announcing its cancellation, and our Eurobond went below what it has ever traded at. In the banking and financial sector, that was one of the biggest scandals. That is why this matter was reported in London, in Paris, in New York. Here, our journalists were muted. I don't know, Zaki Mwamba Kalamba, Mwamba Fishwave. Maybe you were too quiet. But this was a big scandal. People made losses. Someone should be held accountable. Were you speculating on the markets? How can you enter into such a scandalous agreement? But you will not hear it at the press conference of President Hakainde Hichilema. What you hear are successes that they are on their way to succeed. And they will not discuss these matters that are being discussed in London, in Paris, and in New York. And the vigilance of our media, I always blame it because I come from your stock. I'm one of you. We are not paying attention to important things. We would rather call Mao Sampa a president than call his fraud a fraud. We are engaged. We would rather celebrate a law on freedom of information on the mere act of passing that at least there is a start, even if there is nothing in it. On the death penalty, the senior lawyers said the process that government had engaged in was wrong. The death penalty is founded in the Constitution. Your amendment should be done in the Constitution because the Constitution is the one that has provided for the right to life or right to termination. So you cannot do amendments using the penal code where you remove the sentencing powers of a judge and say we have scrapped off the death penalty when it's still provided for in the Republican Constitution. So those are the matters we ask, but they'll say we are bitter, we are just malicious, we lost power, we should just keep quiet because they are cleaning up our poop. So, that's how they...
The mess.
So this country can't have decent debate. This country can't have decent issue-based politics that should make us grow out of the crisis that we are in.
This is the burning issue on the Happy World of 5FM radio. We are also live on our partner radio stations and, of course, Tuta FM in Mansa. Thank you very much. iWave FM in Chingola, covering Copperbelt. We are grateful that you are tuned in. And, of course, Muchinga Radio in Chinsali. And, of course, we are also live on Spice FM in Kabwe, covering Central Province, and live also in Mazabuka on Wave FM, and of course Wave covering the rest of Southern Province. We will take your phone calls on 0955-221515 for your participation, and of course you can send us your messages as well on the number 0761 912493. That's for your messages, both SMSs as well as WhatsApp messages. 0761 912493. That's strictly for your messages. For your phone calls, call me on 0955 221515. Well, we lost it, but we'll take another one. Call us back on 0955 221515. Our guest is Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who is the chairperson for Publicity and Information and spokesperson of the Patriotic Front. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you today?
Fine. This is Moses. Your Excellency, Ambassador Mwamba. How are you, Maukatian?
Tauka mulibwanje.
I think
Moses, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from within Lusaka.
Great, go ahead.
Yes, an economy like ours, ambassador, it needs people like you who are so calm, you know. Even when you are speaking, for us as citizens, we can get that encouragement, and I think you need to continue. You know, continue talking about the wrongs, you know, and the shortcomings of this government, because without criticism, our leaders want to perform to our expectation. Now, I'm wondering, Mwamba, I don't know how you have taken this. Yeah. Whenever this government has found an obstacle, they say, PF vachitahinda ndiye vari government ndiye vachitahinda. Me, I don't take that, message good, because these people that are in civil servants, they are our fellow citizens. And you cannot have a situation where now you start discriminating to say these are PF, these are UPND. Then it means you are putting the lives of those people insecure, because they want you work to 100% or to our expectation. Why? Because their lives are threatened. They don't know about their future. They don't know that maybe tomorrow they'll be fired. So, Mukambepo Maninja, because the same thing, if this government is voted out or in future, those that have been employed under the UPND, their lives also are going to be, are not going to be safe, because they'll be afraid to say maybe Vazaticho Sanchito. Mukambepo Maninja, Abanwanda and Muato Savan to come out to an actual employee in our PF. In the Jabino, our first a bomber, in the PF, in the UPND, or socialist, but in the Komobambi, if it is an official person, no panicking. I've followed you most of my life from actually when you were speaking. You are such, an encouraging man. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Moses. And people from the north, they become big-headed when an Easterner like Moses overpraise them. I just hope you don't. I just hope you don't. But we've got somebody in Turkey who is listening. Joe Ode Future says, "Morning, Zach and Honorable Mwamba, watching you from Turkey. This whole thing is because of the mistakes of the Patriotic Front cadres. Mr. Mwamba, we have suffered enough. We have suffered enough as a country. Talking about NEMA, it's now a worst. How do you even talk about 101 to 101 aged person to 1,000? Are we sure of that? Just talking about Forex, and a thing called cost of living. Even just the energy story, our sure petrol is now at 30 kwacha, milimi is now at 280 to 300 in some parts of. So you guys need to work hand in hand and sort these things because we are tired as a nation. So here you are, and this person based in Turkey. Obviously, these are the pleas to say, let's avoid all the harsh criticism and fighting as a country when we have all these serious issues that need to be addressed. I do get his point. I've got Atson Kasonde, who says, "I'm watching you from Chingola. Mwamba, thanks for your wisdom. We will definitely continue supporting you and the Patriotic Front Party. Work well. Don't worry, we are watching." And let me take another call. Good morning.
Good morning, Razak.
Good morning. Your name, son, where are you calling us from?
This is Brian, according from Lusaka.
Brian from within Lusaka. Please go ahead, son.
Emmanuel Mwamba, mwashibukeni mkwai.
iyo nabuga shani wa Brian
Twashibuka ba Mwamba ifwe.
ichimishimishi
Mkwai?
ichimishimishi
Ichi?
Christmas
At Christmas, shani.
Christmas, yeah. Teti mweneke ba Mwamba. Ba Mwamba. Ba Mwamba.
iyo nde umfayama
Mkwai, ineni kwata fe chipusho. Nda Patriotic Front to support chipani cha Patriotic Front. Ni kwato kusakamana azimo mwe leaders tatishopo mule tuvika mwana nani ama nominations nani alikumpika kushiwa ngandu amulelanda poshani nangu ni plani ishi ndio mkwete ngana mkwata ko plan B pandu chipani chesu cha Patriotic Front chile muneka kwati kwata tatkwete direction ba Mwamba kushena mkwata plan B iya kwatika na Jonse file chitika tuchite kwe fifia feruka tuchite kwe fifia feruka pati tuwasasangati even nangu 2026 vaisi zeti nti vasatu kani deno tuwasharafye nankan apa ukwabura candidate so imwe ngama leaders ushe nankan pincho pomule chitapo ukweba twitch the way forward ushe na mkwata plan B na twinga konga azaba de support chipani pandi finti fire chitika finti fire moneka no komunika chifo nankan ba PF pale kwa tapale ko tulea twatuchite kwe fiba to block twatuchite kwe fiba to block nomba ba Mwamba twarabomba chani ngechipani nangu namukwata ko plan imbi nan twinga konka pandi apata twishire fire chitika ba Mwamba twatwara abantu ku nomination vaisi zetu vachita reject kuma koti turerorera tatwishire so tweve ni direction yo twara konka ba Mwamba tatirefo kuruse chipani chesu cha PF so ngata tuchenjere even 2026 itasa chitika vefini kwa like chitika kuri kukavushi na kukwacha tonse pyali vazi mwana ba Mwamba so tweve niko direction ko twara ukuchira if evo filifintu mwana atwafashani ngabantu abale supporta imwe na totera Mwamba.
Brian. I've got a message here from Morning Vazak kumona ba Mwamba, ba Emmanuel Mwamba. Nine Don Busy kuchingola. It's been quite consistent though. Mu PF ama mashini mu makanso tatwale amona under CDF. Lelo munyu don tule amona ama mashini mu makanso under CDF. So nomba imwe kanawesa ba Mwamba. Chinshi chilenga ukukana tasha nine Don Busy kuchingola. Would you like to react? Maybe I leave it there for now. Yeah.
No, I think we've got three callers. Let's start with Mr. Mbozi, who's blaming the Patriotic Front that we lost elections for peripheral issues such as cadarism, and political violence, maybe in by-elections. We didn't lose elections on bigger issues such as, issues of development, because people can see the roads, the bridges, they can see the dams, the hospitals, the schools, they can see the airports, they can see the work that the Patriotic Front, the investment in power stations, so that we don't have load shedding. But why did we lose power? And he's blaming us that we didn't, for example, handle issues like cadarism, and here we were punished because he's bemoaning that now look at the monster that the people of Zambia brought, a monster that is devouring them. And he's given an example of civil servants that have been highly victimized. There are over 300 civil servants that have been parked at Public Service Management Division for the so-called redeployment. This is unprecedented. This is another number besides the ones they fired. So you have people literally on two salaries because you have directors, assistant directors, and senior managers that have been removed. And then they've brought, when we claim tribalism, this is what we mean. the new appointees. So you literally have two people, the new ones that they've brought on salary, and there were odd ones that they can't fire because civil service does protect themselves. This will be sooner or later. If you have seen even the policemen they fired are being either reinstated or being paid because of the manner they were doing it. So I agree with Mr. Mboze that the PF lost power on peripheral issues, not on the major issues, and we're punished. And now we have a monster, leading us who really doesn't care about our people. The gentleman from Turkey puts the case of Nima very well. He says Nima was key to providing universal coverage for our people, that our people could afford health care. It was placed in their own hands to manage, and to hear the crisis is occurring at Nima, where prescription can be approved for many days. Nga isa prescription insurali pola. Nga ma test to lefwire. You might even have died by the time the authorities coming. Then the crisis that we have at the cancer diseases hospitals, again, where qualified staff were paged. Government spent millions of dollars to train these people. I was in South Africa. Every quarter, I would receive, a new lot of people that were coming for training, either to manage machines, either there were nurses that were being equipped to, because cancer diseases are a new phenomenon in Zambia and you require special skills. Then we had a lot of doctors that were sent to Cape Town, to Australia, just to specialize in this. And most of them have been paged. Then when you look at the Zambia Medicine Regulatory Authority, rendered toothless, government decides to buy medicines from Egypt. These medicines are not registered in Zambia, and the medicines are forced on Zamra to approve. The approval processes for medicine is very, very tedious and long because they have to test it. They have to carry their own tests on people. Sometimes it takes up to a year. But you have this introduction of medicines. Because of the corruption at the top, they buy medicines worth $70 million. And now they have to force this medicine for distribution on our people. So Zamra is being forced to approve. Zambia Medicine and Medical Supplies, ZAMSA, which is supposed to buy. You see how long it has taken for them to take off. The procurement process was abolished at Ministry of Health. The powers were transferred to ZAMSA, and nothing is happening. They've been doing some procurements here and there, but the drug shortages has never gone away. And on regulatory authorities, this is what we are talking about even on the Biosafety Agency, where we know that they are importing meal, pre-packed meal from South Africa. We know that meal from maize or meal from South Africa is GMO. We know that because the entire South Africa has been segmented as a GMO area. So even if I grow non-GMO maize, my neighbor, I can't control what my neighbor will grow. My neighbor may grow GMO maize. So the entire South Africa is a GMO area. It's been designated as such. We are importing. And ZNS is now selling. Our dear brother, Thomas Ziambo, wrote a story. It's a reason they arrested him. He simply wants answers. We have this information about what ZNS is doing. Give us answers. Are you importing GMO to feed our people? If Biosafety Agency has given you authority, because they're the only authority that can grant you to import GMO, why haven't they publicized to Zambians that we gave the government of the Republic of Zambia or ZNS to import GMO meal, so that our people then can make a choice when they go to buy meal? Because then the choice is up to you. Do you want to buy GMO meal or not? These are very sensitive matters, but government should not use the arm of the police to answer to this. Our people merely want answers. Our people, if I'm going to consume meal, where have they come from? Where? That's a simple question our people are asking. And when we ask them, they come with a heavy turn, with a hammer to swat a fly. The last one is the cry from PF members that what are we doing? We've seen him in Galato. where they are abusing the constitution, they're abusing the law, they're abusing parliament, they're abusing the registrar.
Let's talk about the nominations in the recent.
Yeah, I'm coming to
yeah.
that. What they've done is they've recognized Mao Sampa, who clearly held an illegal process. The entire country knows that. The entire country knows that Mao Sampa is not the PF president. But President Hakainde Hichilema and his team are imposing Mao Sampa on the PF. And they want to disenfranchise us, who are legitimate legal owners of the PF, who are elected legal owners of the PF. And they move to the registrar, replace the office bearers. They moved to parliament, removed our leaders in parliament. They've now moved to ECZ, that ECZ now will recognize, remember the list they took to registrar of societies for anyone to participate in this by-election. Honorable Sakwiba Skota, State Council, issued a statement on his Facebook page, and it's been carried by certain various media organizations. He has called on the Chief Justice, Dr. Mumba Malila, who's a renowned human rights lawyer. He says the tension occurring at the PF, where you are failing to resolve this matter, the tension in the PF is threatening national security, because you've allowed illegalities after illegalities, to now even the police to protect an illegality in Mao Sampa, to allow parliament to protect an illegality in Mao Sampa, to allow the registrar of society to protect an illegality. What you have done, you've gone to the core issues of our country, of peace and security, rule of law, and constitutionalism. Where are your judges? Why aren't they attending to this matter? Brebna Changala, well-renowned civil society activist. Brebna took on the PF, took on Edgar Lungu. He's one of those critical voices that helped the UPND to win elections. Again, he has called on President Hakainde Hichilema to stop what he's doing, because he's endangering national security. Because he's not fighting the PF, he's breaking the constitution, he's breaking the laws of Zambia, and he's enabling an illegality to occur. Then we have our people. We had Mayembe ward elections in Chinsali. We had Kapamba by-election in Mpika, and we had Kayo in Mwansa-Wombwe. And now we have two certificates, one signed by Mao Sampa, an illegality, even if they've enabled him as a legal one, and the one signed by Edgar Lungu and Raphael Nakachinda. And they declared our candidates illegal on that premise. And the disqualification of our candidates is actually even illegal, because our candidates filed, their nomination papers were successful. They even went outside, you saw the celebrations. At the end of the day, they were called that, no, now we are closing nominations. There's no such thing in the Constitution or in the Electoral Process Act. In the Electoral Process Act and in the law, what is provided for, if I submit, like it happened in Kwacha and Kabushi, they should be able to say, Honorable Malanji, after scrutinizing your papers and reading Article 72 as directed by ECZ, you are not eligible to stand in this election. I've seen your papers, but you do not qualify. I therefore disqualify you. That's what happens. You don't disqualify or qualify few hours later. It's not provided for in the law. We have complained about ECZ. Look at the composition. The entire composition of commissioners. Look at it. They now employed a director, they call him Chief Electoral Officer, a man that faced criminal offenses in 2016 for tampering with the register, tampering. There were criminal offenses against him. And they were only withdrawn on the understanding that he will resign. He's a person with such a tainted record you bring as boss of ECZ. So you have commissioners, they are UPND, and just from almost all of them from one section of our country. And then you have a CEO, again, who's been accused that there are certain things he was doing for the UPND that end him, criminal allegations and the dismissal in 2016. These are very serious matters. It shows that we will not have free and fair elections in 2020, 26. Can you guarantee peace? Can you guarantee law and order with such an ECZ commission? Can you guarantee that this country can have free and fair elections? On the eve of these by-elections, ECZ issues a statement that they only accept certificates signed by the President and the Secretary General, things that are not provided for. Ward elections is our ward officials, constituents, depending on what is provided for in your constitution that is provided for. They've done the same to Savoy Imboila, where a faction, which was led by Joseph Sakafumba, the current PS, is now the one they are recognizing. And remember, Registrar of Society is under Ministry of Home Affairs, where Joseph Sakafumba is permanent secretary. And now they are recognizing an illegal entity as the owners of NDC. Despite these matters being in court, Zach, we have a nation in crisis. And when you ask a UPN, they'll tell you what crisis? There's no crisis. You tell them the exchange rate at our PFMCC 23. You give them evidence that actually President Hakainde found the exchange rate at 16. They will say, no, my Shilepa 23. Ubunga na budula, you are lazy. That's why if you become a farmer, you benefit from the price. They are dismissive. Sakwiba Skota, Brebna Changala, the church in their pastoral letter that was issued in November, they say, President, what you are doing is you are endangering national security. You are endangering our peace by promoting illegalities and the rule of law. What is the answer from them? No, PF balelo afibek. Mao sampa fia convention yabo na bena Edgar Lungu. Even when they are the ones designing this illegality, they're the ones implementing these illegalities. If it was an internal fight, why are they interfering with the Registrar of Societies? Why are they interfering with the courts of law? Up to now, we don't have an injunction that we asked for in October. An injunction by law.
And expelled MPs? What's the status?
Can you imagine? Look at the extent of the lawlessness. Where
because there's confidence that these are looming by-elections next month.
True. That's the extent.
And what are you doing about it?
That's the extent of lawlessness our people face, our country face. That you can have a non-PF member in Moganingona expel our MPs that were elected by our people. Look at that lawlessness. Moganingona is not PF.
Well,
but
the reality now,
Ambassador
Mwamba, the reality now is that those are the recognized
It's
PF
an alternative
leadership.
reality. They are risking this country.
And my question is, how are you dealing with what is reality now? Because if the reality has been imposed at the moment, you have to succumb to this.
President Edgar Lungu said a very fundamental statement. He says to our members, the problem that has been thrust before us, where you have UPND and President Hakainde Hichilema trying to impose a leadership on the PF, an opposition party. The problem is legal, which we are doing. We've gone to courts. Okay, you have an injunction pending on a judge's desk. The law says within 7 days deal with the injunction. That's what the law provides. That's what Supreme Court regulation provides. We are going in the 3rd month. So look at the lawlessness at the judiciary. We take Mao Sampa, because at the time he was writing those letters, he was an expelled member, a suspended member. So he can't use our stationery. He can't use any of our documents. We've said this is fraud by law. We don't know who's given him these letterheads. He's not even supposed to sign those letters. Him and Moganingona have committed an offense. Let's prosecute them for that fraud. You have a DPP who comes and writes a letter to discontinue those matters using 2 reasons. The first reason, he says, because there are matters in the High Court, civil matters. Any basic lawyer knows, any basic law student knows that criminal matters take precedence. The DPP has abused his powers. He knows that criminal proceedings take precedence in this country. Secondly, they can run parallel with civil proceedings. But he abandons the law, he abandons the constitution, he abandons supreme regulations and discontinued the matter. Secondly, On his nomination, on his ratification and affirmation, when President Hakainde Hichilema, Mao Sampa stood in Parliament and announced, you've seen the video, that I'm supporting Gilbert. Gilbert is a friend of mine, he's a personal friend of mine, and he's my lawyer. What was required by the DPP?
Gilbert, in this case, in reference to the DPP.
Yeah, the DPP,
right.
Gilbert Piri, yes, when it was being ratified. You've
right.
seen the video. We can play it here, where people can hear Mao Sampa declaring that as an MP, Matero MP, is going to support the nomination of Gilbert as a DPP because Gilbert is his personal friend. He knows his integrity. Now, what was expected of the DPP is to declare interest. Declare, say, no, Mao Sampa is a friend of mine. Maybe this file should be handled by my deputy or by another public prosecutor. That's what should have happened. You have criminality going on everywhere, whether it's at the judiciary, whether it's at the DPP's office, whether it's in Parliament. That is why when the Conference of Catholic Bishops, when Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, and when the Christian Council of Churches in Zambia say, Mr. President, you are perpetrating illegalities and you are actually threatening national peace and security, the IG should not be issuing statements to us threatening us. The IG should be issuing statements to his president and the UPND who are facilitating this illegality, which is abusing the rule of law. We asked for a subpoena of the court register, of our office bearers register. We wanted to prove that Honorable Nelly Muti, as Speaker of the National Assembly, had committed atrocities by changing the leaders in Parliament, because she announced to the country that she changed and made that decision based on a letter from Morgan Ingona and on the status of office bearers at the registrar's office. The registrar provided the genuine list of office bearers. So the Speaker of the National Assembly lied, abandoned the Constitution, which actually says this leader of the opposition must be elected among members of the opposition. They abandoned that. She lied that she made the changes based on the status at the Registrar of Society. When the subpoena that required that this matter, the registrar gives us these documents, was now made public, they removed the Registrar of Societies, Madam Tandiwe Piri Muhende, from our office. You have these illegalities going on everywhere.
Can I give you some more messages?
The matter is before, one of the matters is before Judge Timothy Katenekwa. And from our knowledge and understanding, he's been made to discontinue those matters, and we are told now he's going into retirement. There is a lot of things happening in this country. The damage that President Hakainde Hichilema is doing to democratic and autonomous independent institutions will far last beyond him. We have seen previous governments, FICO, do this, but they've never gone to the abuse of the Constitution. They've never gone to abusing the rule of law. You never saw Nevas Mumba fighting with our dear brother Felix Mtati, and government actively involved in it. Matters were in court. Nevas Mumba won all the cases that he took to court. Of course, there was lapse of time, but he won all court cases. Not this government. This government is going to the judiciary. This government is going to the DPP's office. This government is going to Parliament. This government is disregarding the Constitution. So when eminent people, voices of reason in this country, blow the whistle that you are endangering national peace and security, that's what they mean. Because government is perpetrating lawlessness. Government is perpetrating the abuse of the law. And so when our members cry that, Ambassador, what are you doing about it? What do people expect us to do when it's government perpetrating the lawlessness? Some people are looking at the case that this is Mao Sampa. It's not Mao Sampa we're fighting. We're fighting President Hakainde Hichilema is the one perpetrating, enabling, and allowing this. All institutions have been enabled to support an illegality. It's not Mao Sampa. Mao Sampa is merely a pawn in the quest to destroy the PF and to destroy democracy in this country, to make him the only standing credible leader in 2026.
Mm. Let me give you some more messages. I've got one here. It says, "Good morning, Ambassador and moderator. Although I just tuned in 10 minutes ago, but I think that what Mr. Mwamba has been saying is making a lot of sense. Now, my question is, recently a UPND official, Mr. Hachombwa, accused civil servants inclined to the Patriotic Front Party of derailing the ruling party's progress on delivery of development and services to the people. What is your reaction to such allegations? Are these workers using two sets of systems, policies, one of the Patriotic Front and the other of the UPND? How long are the UPND going to heap the blame on the former ruling party? Let me quickly also give you this one. This one says, it's from Mazabuka. Bamwamba, tell this government that there are no drugs in hospitals, high cost of living, no salary increments in the private sector. The Minister of Labor, she is just drinking tea. Good morning, your name and where are you calling us from?
Zaki, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Great. Your name, sir, and where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Chilulu here in Lusaka. From Mangala, senior citizen. Those are my names.
Yes, Mr. Mwangala, please go ahead and be brief because you are our second last caller, right?
Yes. Your Excellency, Emmanuel Mwamba, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Vampundu murishani.
Quietly feel we know.
Litumez shangwe.
You see, each time, Ambassador, I listen to you, it gives me a lot of confidence. And I think the same goes for our members. They draw a lot of confidence in what the caller said. For how long? Because we are also spectators to whatever is happening. And we feel definitely so agitated, like probably would wish anything to happen. But the thing is, why can't you deal with these courts directly or seek any assistance from our ambassadors around here? What are they saying? I'm aware of the Americans, what they said. I'm aware of the British, whatever the madam said. But really, we now need agents to apply agents so that something can change whatever is happening now. Our patience is running out, and we are also running out of time. I think this you are fully aware, Ambassador. To our people, I'm receiving calls from Chavuma all over. See, what is happening? When shall we breathe peace? When shall we have some kind of confidence that something is about to happen? These are our people all over. So I just want to hear, from you, what you can say in brief. I've been told I should be brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me also maybe quickly just read, not necessarily that you can respond to all of them, but to read out the thoughts of our listeners. Good morning, Zach and Mr. Mwamba. Sir, you are speaking very well, but I disagree with you per free education. In PF, we were actually paying 200 kwacha, not 150, sir. Here, someone brought free education, not paying anything. Bamwamba, Chishinka Nchamushe, I think he meant to say. So this is HH7 for life. This is Hastings Kuchalala. Thank you very much, Hastings, for that message. Let me also quickly give you another one. Good morning, Mr. Moderator and Ambassador Mwamba. Although, I think we read this one. But quickly, maybe you can respond to Mr. Mwangala.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And the gentleman, let's start with Mr. Hachombwa, who accused. A caller was referring to Mr. Hachombwa, who accused that civil servants. I've been a civil servant, public servant for 20 years. Civil servants are professionals. They served Dr. Kaunda. They saved Dr. Chiluba. They saved President Mwanawasa. They saved President Rupia Banda. They saved Michael Sata. They saved Edgar Lungu. And they will save diligently Hakainde Hichilema. These fears are out of ignorance and just personal hatred. It has nothing to do with the public service. You just look at someone, he comes from a certain region, you accuse them of being PF, and you believe your false accusation and you proceed to fire them or pack them at PSMD or victimize them. These injuries they are doing to our public service are totally unacceptable. And someone thought President Hakainde would do something different. Even set up a commission to re-employ civil servants that felt they were victimized because of the region they came from. You are aware of that. Out of over 1,500 that applied, I think government only re-employed 170 because the bulk of the allegations were false. People were stealing, were thieves, were misconducting themselves, and they were fired on that basis. And President Hakainde Hichilema's own commission demonstrates that. Because all the 1,500, if they were really victimized because they came from a certain region, his own appointees would have reinstated them. Sadly, we are employing cadres in the civil service. Cadres, well-known cadres. You don't bring them in the civil service, you know. And I was sad the other day, the PS Sports presenting UPND cadres and UPND musicians to the president. You must have heard his speech. He said, Mr. President, I'm going to give a brief speech, but the ones I present here, they're all UPND and UPND cadres, they sang for you. But the others that we've employed, that even if they're UPND cadres and musicians, we've employed them in our offices. They are transitioning now, they are civil servants. And he gave two examples of two musicians, that one he had employed as a cleaner, another one that he had sent, I think, to Mansa. Move on to Akwalesa. The civil service is supposed to be professional. And you're supposed to advertise those positions. They are eligible. Zambians are eligible to apply. So when will Zambians get employed? You have to belong to a party for you to get a government job? No. So the remarks by this caller is right. And let me give an example of my Minister of Health, Honorable Sylvia Masevo. She's quick to go and see who has stolen the Panadol. But her bosses are not dealing with the big scandals at her ministry. $70 million of medicines not approved by Zamra, brought from Egypt. And they want to even to cover it as a government-to-government arrangement when it is not. The records show that it is not. There's $100 million for infectious diseases hospital, where the contractor accused the minister of soliciting a bribe. But she would rather go and chase a Panadol that a pharmacist hasn't dispensed. For me, I would rather deal with these millions of dollars of procurement. You have procurement of medicines that have been recalled. Those are the issues we should deal with. Always you are accusing someone. A civil servant should be the fall guy for your own corruption. There is critical shortages of medicine, not because the pharmacist is stealing Panadol, but because you have not bought the medicines. You know. The other caller from is it Mazabuka or Monze?
Yeah, Mazabuka.
Who says, first, our salaries have not been increased for 3 years. Look at the cost of living. Look at the nutrition basket, the food and nutritional basket. It says you need about 9,300 kwacha. Are any of our workers getting anywhere near that 9,300 kwacha? And he says, for example, there is even no personal protection equipment, the PPEs that workers should wear. And he says, we've been working without contracts for 3 years or renewal of contracts. And she says, where is the Minister of Labor? Where is she? And it's a valid question. And the case from Monze is an isolated case. It's not an isolated case, sorry. This is a current picture across all industries in our country. Our workers are working in perilous conditions. Wo Mwangala is exasperated as he's saying, how long will PF members wait? We can't keep on telling them, be calm, when atrocities are being committed against a party. And you can see that our members have lost patience now. Because like I said, this project we have, this problem we have is not Malsampa. Malsampa is not our project, it's not our program. Malsampa is a project of State House. Malsampa is a project of government. Because if you see what has happened at the Registrar of Societies, if you saw what happened at his own conference when he was setting it up, if you see the behavior of ZMBC, if you see the behavior of the police, where the Deputy Inspector General of Police himself, Honorable, Milner, was the one even clearing signatures for so-called office bearers on the day of the conference. If you look at what has happened at Parliament, if now you look what has happened in the last 3 by-elections, we are under attack. Malsampa has no capacity to even organize even 2 policemen. He has no such capacity. We are dealing with President Hakainde Hichilema, who's trying to steal, kill, and destroy the Patriotic Front. And our members must know, maybe they will raise their level of engagement. They accuse us that we are calling for mass demonstrations. Yes, mass demonstration within the law. Our members in Chadiza or in Zambezi can gather themselves, ask for a permit from the police, and march to the DC's office to express their displeasure. That is not illegal. It's within the law. It's within our constitution. They can do that to demonstrate over the disaffection that has affected this country and in the manner that this government is dealing with democracy. We need to protect democracy, sometimes by lawless people like dictators when they come to do that. The other last gentleman said free education, that I should praise this government because it brought free education. And he says it was not 150, it was 200. Well, I can refer you to the communication that was done, I think in 2019 or 2020, by the Ministry of Education Permanent Secretary, who reduced the fees to 150. And my question on free education is, the PF, there was a 600 kwacha contribution. The PF reduced it first to 200 kwacha and to 150. And my question is, who has provided free education? One was reduced by 150, one was reduced by 450. I guess, looking at mathematics, algebra, the one who was provided, knocked off 450 kwacha, is the one that has provided free education.
Mr. Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, we have to leave it here, but your concluding remarks, and I mean it.
Thank you very much. And to our supporters, like I've stated, that you can show your disaffection. You can show that you're not happy with this government using lawful means. You can get a permit. You can march to a district, a DC's office, district commissioner's office. You can march to a mayor's office. And you can carry placard. It's within the law. There's nothing illegal. While our lawyers are busy, we politicians must do the politics. We must go, even a lone protest to State House and protest against the machinations being perpetrated by President Hakainde Hichilema. It's not outside the law. It's within the law. There are things we should do politically. We should participate in every by-election when they disqualify us. Zambians will see what these institutions have been rendered.
We understand that the Patriotic Front has, seems like they are willing not to go ahead and proceed with these court cases, but then channel energies into endorsing the Socialist Party for 2026. How true is that?
You know why President Hakainde Hichilema is doing what he's doing against the PF? He recognizes it's the largest political party in this country. He recognizes it has a countrywide presence. He recognizes 2.5 years later, the party remains intact. Even the machinations have tried with Malsampa. 2.5 months later, Malsampa still has no following, no presence, no support. They know how intact the PF is. So they want to push it to a corner where they will have the PF under Malsampa come in alliance with the PF so that the PF doesn't have a candidate. We know their immediate plans and their long-term plans. Their plans is that the PF should not have a candidate who they perceive will be Edgar Lungu in 2026, so that then Edgar Lungu can be pushed to another political party, smaller political party, which can adopt him, or Edgar Lungu can form a political party. They want to put him in a corner. At every process, they are looking like a chess piece. So is he forming a political party? They control the political process. When Saboya Imboela adopt him, they destroy Saboya Imboela. That's why we are letting Zambians that these schemes go to destroy democracy, go to destroy the multi-party state and nature of our country, go to render the country to a one-party state, go to render the 2026 elections where the only candidate standing will be Hichilema with his proxies. And Zambians should not allow that. Zambians decided.
So are you endorsing Socialist Party? Should your issues drag on? Should your issues drag on?
We are Patriotic Front. And Patriotic Front will fight tooth and nail. And like we have said, we'll use legal means, political means, and civil means. We are engaging partners that recognize that the attack is on democracy. Democracy doesn't affect us, it affects everyone. We'll engage citizens. Democracy. You may not like us as PF, but what they are doing, they're destroying democracy. We'll be engaged in political activities, whether it's demonstrations, whether it's protests. We will engage in all those activities to ensure that we reclaim and restore our country to a multi-party state that it is. So God bless you, and thank you to the management of 5FM and to you, Zach, and my apologies to Dr. Chitalo Chilufya, who should have been here to comprehensively discuss the health sector. We pray that you give him another opportunity to come and speak to the matters, because they're very cardinal to the health of our country. And to dear listeners, the callers, thank you very much, Bob Mwangala, Litumeza Hulu, and to all the guys and colleagues that called. And let's soldier on. We have a right and we have to protect our democracy. So God bless you. God bless you all.
And good luck to you and the Patriotic Front on your journey. And to our listeners, thank you very much for having followed our conversation, and those that participated by way of sending us SMSs and indeed by calling us. Well, like you heard, our guest should have been Dr. Chitalo Chilufya, who is Mansa Central constituency member of parliament and former minister of health, but nonetheless, due to circumstances beyond his control, he was well represented, and of course, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, chairperson for information and publicity and spokesperson of the Patriotic Front, was able to be here and indeed managed to discuss national issues with us. So thanks also to our partner radio stations for having carried this program live on their platforms. We will definitely be back next week at the same time.
Zach, just before you go, so sorry.
Yeah.
There's a message here. It has come to my phone. Someone said, Jack asked you that we should face reality. Reality is Mao Sampa is president legally.
Mm.
He says, tell Zach that reality means, he's quoting from the dictionary, that reality means truth, genuine, and obliterated. And Mao Sampa doesn't fit any of those.
Nominations can speak for you. Nominations can speak for you. That he's so far being the only recognized. I know, I like that too. But it's a debate for another day. But the reality I'm talking about is that here you are. If it's a monster living with you. So what do you do with it? So thank you very much, and I appreciate for that message. Well, until next time, take care of yourselves and more so of each other. Bye.
Tune in next week for another edition of The Burning Issue, and thank you for your participation. Democracy and freedom of expression is about